The sun was setting on Luna Outpost 9, the last human scrapyard on the moon. Broken ships, rusted metal, and old cargo modules lay everywhere. Most of them were junk, nothing more than space trash. But for Reed, a young mechanic with sharp eyes and empty pockets, junk was opportunity. Reed was only 22. He lived alone in a small cabin behind the scrapyard office. Every day he searched for old parts to sell or trade. That's how he survived. One cold evening, while walking between piles of scrap, something caught his attention. It was an old ship, half covered in dust and metal sheets. The body was damaged, its wings broken, engine silent. No lights, no ID code, no signs of life. Strange, he whispered. He had never seen this model before. It didn't look human. Not fully. He checked the scrapyard log. The ship had no record. Someone had dropped it off without a name, no payment, no history, just left to rot. Reed felt a chill, but curiosity won. He walked around it, ran his hand over the cold metal. There was a hatch slightly open. He grabbed his toolkit, powered up a scanner, and tried to unlock the door. A soft click. The hatch opened. Inside, it was dark and silent. Cold air escaped, touching his face. It smelled like metal and something else, something old. He turned on his flashlight and stepped in. The ship's interior was simple. 2 seats. A broken dashboard. Burned out wires. No food, no blankets, no sign of use. He walked toward the back and found a small storage room. There, he stopped. In the corner of the room, lying on the metal floor, was a figure. A girl. She was not human. Her skin was light blue, almost glowing. Her hair was silver, her hands small. Her body thin. She wore a tight uniform that looked torn and dirty. No shoes, no blanket, no warmth. She wasn't moving. Reed froze. His heart raced. Was she alive? He moved closer and bent down. Her eyes were closed. Her skin looked too pale. He reached out and touched her shoulder gently. Suddenly her eyes opened, bright green, full of fear. She tried to sit up but fell back. Weak, breathing fast. "It's okay," Reed said softly. "You're safe." She didn't speak. She looked at him with wide eyes, her hands shaking. She didn't understand his words. Reed quickly took off his jacket and wrapped it around her. She was freezing. Her lips had no color. He offered her water. But she didn't react. She was in shock. He picked her up carefully and carried her outside, back to his cabin. The moon's cold wind touched her skin, but she didn't resist. Inside his small home, he placed her on the bed, turned on the heater, and covered her with more clothes and blankets. Slowly, her breathing slowed down, her eyes closed again. Not from fear, but from sleep. Reed sat beside her, thinking, who was she? Where did she come from? Why was she inside that ship alone with nothing? The next morning, she was awake, still silent, still scared. Reed tried to speak again. "Can you understand me?" No reply. He smiled gently and said, "Okay, I'll call." "You, Lyra." The name just came to him. It felt right. She stared at him but didn't argue. She looked around the room, then at her own hands, as if she didn't know who she was. Reed noticed something else. A small mark on her wrist, like a scar, but glowing faintly. He touched it. It felt warm. She pulled her hand back quickly. Her eyes narrowed. She remembered something. But not enough. Later that day, Reed went back to the strange ship. He wanted to know more. When he powered the system using his portable core, the dashboard blinked. Only for a second, a message played. It was in her voice, broken, distorted. "They are looking for me. Don't let them take me." That was all. Reed stood still. She wasn't just a lost alien girl. She was running from someone, and now they might be looking for her and for whoever found her that night. Reed stayed up, checking the stars through his small window. Lyra slept, her breathing quiet. But outside, in the junkyard, something moved. A small drone, black, silent, watching, hovered above the broken ship. Then it flew away. The room was quiet. Too quiet. A thin layer of steam floated near the Sealing from the heater. Morning light slipped through the cracked window, casting soft lines on the floor. Somewhere outside, a metal pipe clanged in the wind. But inside Reed's small cabin, nothing moved, except her, the alien girl, Lyra. As Reed had named her, was awake again. This time, she was sitting up. Her back leaned against the wall, knees pulled close to her chest. The jacket Reed gave her hung loosely from her shoulders. Her green eyes were open, calm, and empty. She looked around like she was seeing the world for the first time. Reed entered the room slowly, carrying a hot cup of soup. "You're awake," he said with a small smile. "Good." She didn't speak. He placed the soup in front of her. She looked at it, confused. Then she looked at Reed, trying to understand. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said gently. "Safe here." Again, silence. She touched the spoon. The metal was warm. She brought it to her lips slowly and tasted the soup. It was her first real movement since she arrived. Reed sat down nearby, not too close. He studied her carefully. Her skin looked smoother now. The color in her cheeks had returned, but there was still something wrong, something missing. "Do you know your name?" he asked softly. She stared at the wall. "Where are you from?" No answer. He tried a few simple phrases. English, Spanish, a little Martian dialect. Nothing worked. Didn't speak his language, or maybe she didn't remember it. Then she spoke one word. "Cold." Reed sat forward. "You're cold?" She shook her head slowly. "Memory. Cold. Inside." Her voice was soft, shaky, like she had forgotten how to speak. Reed's heart raced. She could talk. Just barely. "What's the last thing you remember?" he asked. She blinked. Her hands gripped the blanket tightly. Dark, water, running, lights, noise. Voice faded again. She was struggling. Her memories were broken, like shattered glass. Later that day, Reed took her back to the ship. He thought maybe being near it would help. She walked slowly, her bare feet touching the cold ground. She paused at the door of the ship. Something about it made her hesitate. Inside, she looked around, then touched the wall. Her fingers traced the metal like it meant something to her. Reed watched as her body tensed. She stepped toward the storage room, the same place where she had been. Found suddenly, the ship's broken dashboard lit up, without anyone touching it. A strange hum filled the air. The lights flickered, and a voice played. It was hers, but not her. Calm, clear, and full of fear. "They are coming for me. Do not let them take me. Do not." Static then. Silence. Reed turned to her. "That's you. Your voice." She didn't react. Her eyes were locked on the floor. He stepped closer. "Do you know who's coming?" she whispered. "Bad men masks? No eyes?" That was all. Then she dropped to her knees and covered her ears, shaking. Reed rushed to her side. "It's okay. You're safe now." But something had changed. She wasn't just confused anymore. She was scared. That night, back in the cabin, she didn't eat. She didn't speak. She just stared out the window at the black sky. Reed tried to rest, but he couldn't sleep. His mind kept playing that message over and over. Who were they? Why was she running? And how did her voice activate the ship without touching anything? Then, just past midnight, Reed checked the junkyard cameras. One feed was down, another showed something strange, a flash of red light. He zoomed in. A drone, spinning above the broken ship. Not human-made. Not legal. It hovered, scanned the area, and flew away into the dark. Reed's chest tightened. Whoever left her here hadn't finished the job they were watching, and they would come back. Rain doesn't fall on the moon, but that night it felt like it should. Reed stood alone in the scrapyard, wind brushing dust across his boots. The silence of space had a strange weight, like something was watching. Somewhere between the rusted ships and broken panels, that feeling returned. The drone from last night wasn't a dream. It had scanned the area and vanished. Reed had seen enough trouble in life to know one thing. Trouble never scans and leaves quietly. Back. Inside, Lyra was staring at a small light. It came from her wrist, a glowing line, like a pulse blinking softly beneath her skin. It hadn't done that before. Reed moved closer. "Does it hurt?" She shook her head slowly. "It's waking up." He frowned. "What's waking up?" She looked at him, eyes calm but distant. "I don't know." Then the ship's signal. Light flashed outside. Like it had been dead for days now, it was calling. Reed rushed to the cockpit. Screen was flickering again, just like before. But this time, the system was doing something different. It was unlocking files. Lines of alien code filled the screen. Symbols, numbers, sounds. Then suddenly, one clear audio file came through, and it was not in her voice this time. It was male, older, human. Project Hybridex Protocol Emergency Containment failed. Subject escaped containment. Memory locks engaged. Backup AI active. Do not trust visual signs. The subject is highly intelligent and unstable. Reed froze. Subject containment. Was this about Lyra? He turned to her. She was standing in the doorway now, watching, not confused. It's not scared. Silent. Reed's voice cracked a little. "Is that you?" She looked at the screen and spoke one word, clear with force. Me. Reed stared. "Escape from them," she nodded. "They made me. I was part of something bad, but I ran." He stepped forward. "Why?" Her eyes drifted toward the wall. "Because I saw what they were doing to the others." Reed felt the room go cold. "Others?" he asked. She sat down slowly, her voice lower now. "There were more. Like me. But not awake, not finished. They kept us inside a vault, hidden. I don't remember where, but I remember the pain." Reed sat across from her. He wanted to ask more, but she suddenly grabbed her head, sharp pain flashing across her face. She cried out. Reed reached for her. But before he could touch her, her wrist glowed again, brighter this time, and the screen changed. A visual. A PPEARED, a blurred image of a planet, rocky, gray, covered in storm clouds. Under it, Vault Site 1 to be accessed. Dayanon. Reed stared. "Is that where they kept you?" Lyra was breathing hard. "Yes, think so." She whispered one more thing. "Some part of me wants to go back." Reed didn't understand. "Why would you go back to the place you escaped from?" She looked straight at him. "Because something important is still there." Before he could respond, the ship's external alarm beeped. A new signal. Not human. Not from the moon either. Reed checked the radar. A small object was entering lunar orbit. Okay, no sound, but heading directly toward their location. Lyra stood. "They found me." Reed's hands moved fast, grabbing his tools, a power cell, and the emergency core. "Then we leave, now." Lyra didn't argue. They ran toward the ship. It was still weak, not fully fixed, but it could fly barely. Inside, as Reed connected the systems, the main screen came back on. The same voice from before spoke again, this time softer. "If she remembers who she is, she will not be alone anymore. And neither will Earth." Reed stared at the screen. "What does that mean?" Lyra sat beside him, her voice low. "It means they didn't just make me to hide me. They made me. For something bigger." The engines roared to life. The ship lifted, shaking off dust, old bolts, and fear. Below, the object entered the moon sky dark, sharp and fast. As they flew toward the stars, Reed knew this was no longer about fixing a broken ship. This was about uncovering something Earth had hidden and hoped no one would ever find again. Asterisk the sky above the moon, cracked with light. Not natural light, but scanners. Searchlights and engine trails. A black ship had entered lunar airspace. Its shape was sharp and silent, like a blade slicing through stars. No flags, no signal, no ID. But it knew where to look. Inside the stolen ship, Reed's hands moved fast. He fixed the stabilizers, connected the power core, and prayed the engine wouldn't die halfway. Across from him, Lyra stared at the radar. "They're close," she said. Her voice was steady now, not afraid, not weak. Something inside her had changed. Reed looked at her. "Can you fly?" She nodded. "I think I was made to." The ship shook as it lifted from the junkyard floor. Dust flew. Broken parts fell behind. As they rose, the enemy ship appeared on the horizon. Black metal. Red lights. It didn't speak. Didn't warn. It fired. The first blast missed. The second came close. Too close. Reed yelled. "Shields," Lyra pressed. A hand against the console, and the ship responded like it recognized her. Energy surged. The ship turned sharply, dodging the next blast. Reed was stunned. "You're connected to it?" She nodded. "This ship knows me. It's part of my..." Pasty looked at her with new eyes. She wasn't just a survivor now. She was something designed for this. But the enemy was faster. Behind them, the black ship grew larger. It moved without sound, closing in like a shadow. Reed pushed the ship toward the moon's orbit gate, the only exit that wouldn't alert Earth's military patrols. But the gate had a problem. It hadn't been used in years. It was shut. Reed cursed under his breath. "We're not going to make it unless we open that gate." Lyra stood. She walked to the back of the ship, placed her glowing hand on the control wall, and whispered something Reed couldn't understand. The ship responded. Outside. Old systems on the moon began to wake. The orbit gate silent for... Years blinked, unlocked, and opened just enough for one ship. But time was running out. The black ship fired again. This time it hit. A side wing exploded. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled the cockpit. Red coughed, eyes burning. "Can you hold it steady?" Lyra placed both hands on the console. For a moment, everything went quiet. The ship stopped shaking. Then, like a bird reborn, it launched forward. Faster than before. The gate was right ahead, small, closing, but still open. Reed held his breath. They passed through just in time. The moment they crossed the gate, the stars changed. The moon vanished behind them. Silence returned. But they were not safe. Reed leaned back, exhausted. "You just saved us." Lyra didn't answer. She was looking at something. On the screen in front of her, a map had appeared, one that neither of them had touched. It was a star chart. It showed a path. It pointed to a planet far beyond known space. Reed asked. "What is that?" Lyra whispered. "The vault?" He blinked. "The place where you were created?" She nodded. "Where the others still sleep." Reed leaned forward. "You want to go back?" Lyra looked at him, calm, determined, and strangely. "Human, I have too," he asked. "Why?" She looked down at her wrist, where the glowing mark had returned. "Because I wasn't the only one who escaped. Someone else is waking up too. And if we don't find them first, they will find us." Reed felt the weight of her words. This wasn't just a girl anymore. This was the beginning of something much bigger. Something Earth had buried. Something now returning. In deep space. There are places even light forgets. One of them floated now before Reed's ship. A dark gray planet, covered in violent clouds and thick electrical storms. No name.
Oh, yeah.
No signal. No orbit station. Just silence and history. Lyra stared at it through the cockpit window. Her eyes weren't full of fear. They were full of recognition. "This is where it started," she whispered. Reed checked the systems. "It's off the star charts. No landing zones, no data." Lyra pointed to the northern hemisphere. "There's something there." "Under the storms?" Reed hesitated. "You sure?" She answered without blinking. "I can feel it." The ship dropped through the atmosphere. Winds slammed the hull. Lightning scraped the sides. Alarms flashed, but Lyra remained calm. Her hand touched the controls again, guiding the ship like a memory was flying it for her. They landed hard in a canyon surrounded by black rock. The planet was lifeless. No plants, no sun. Just dust and echoes. Reed stepped outside and shivered. The air felt wrong, heavy, like it remembered pain. Lyra led the way. She didn't need a map. Her feet moved across the ground like she had walked it before. They reached a cliff wall with strange symbols. ancient but glowing faintly. Lyra pressed her palm against the stone. The rock shook and opened. Behind it, a path of stairs led. Underground, Reed followed her into the dark. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. No wind, no sound, only the beat of his own heart. Finally, they entered a vast underground chamber. Reed stopped. Dozens of tall glass tubes stood in rows inside them. People, but not human, not alien, something in between. They were like Lyra, sleeping, floating, wired into machines. Reed whispered, "What is this place?" Lyra looked around slowly. The vault. She walked up to one of the tubes. A girl with red skin floated inside, her eyes closed, her body still. "They are like me," Lyra said, "but unfinished." Reed stepped back, trying to understand. "So, you were the first one who worked?" Lyra's voice was flat. "No, I was the first who escaped." As she spoke, the lights flickered. Then, something moved behind the glass. One of the figures opened its eyes. It wasn't Lyra's reflection. It was another hybrid awake. Reed grabbed Lyra's arm. "We need to leave now." But Lyra stood. Still, her wrist began to glow again. The light pulsed in rhythm with the vault's walls. "It's not just a lab," she said. "It's alive." Suddenly, a screen activated on the far wall. A message played. This time the voice was female, older, tired. Project Hybrid X command log. Vault Site 1 to be status. Failure. Subject 03 breached core protocols. Now remaining. Units placed in stasis. Vault system sealed. Do not awaken them. Reed turned to Lyra. "Are you Subject 03? She nodded. "Yes." He stepped away. "Then this place was meant to keep you in." Lyra looked around, her expression unreadable. "No, it was meant to keep something else from getting out." Suddenly alarms began to echo in the chamber. One of the glass tubes cracked, then another. Reed shouted, "What's happening?" Lyra's voice dropped. "Someone activated the system remotely. They're waking them all up." Reed pulled her arm. "Then we run." But Lyra stood still, watching the tubes open. She wasn't running, not anymore. The glass shattered. One by one, the pods cracked open, and the air inside the vault changed. It no longer felt empty. It felt alive. Lyra stood frozen, watching figures drop from the pods, wet, weak, but breathing. Their bodies twitched as they touched the floor. Blue skin, silver skin, red, all different, all part of the same design. Reed backed away. "Lyra, we have to go." But she didn't move. Her eyes were locked on one of the waking hybrids, a tall boy with black markings across his neck. He stared at her like he knew her. He stepped forward and said her name, Lyra. Reed's chest tightened. "He speaks." Lyra whispered back, "You remember me?" The boy nodded. "They made us together. You were the one who saw what they were doing." Reed looked between them. "What did they do?" The boy's voice was rough. "They trained us to follow orders. To fight, to kill, but Lyra," she refused. He turned to her again. "You ran. You chose something else. You broke the system." Reed stepped closer to Lyra. "What is he saying?" She turned, finally facing him fully, and spoke the truth. "Was never just a girl they made," she said. "I was the first to feel pain, real pain, and understand it wasn't normal. I was supposed to be a weapon, but I wanted to be more." Reed felt his stomach twist. "You were built for war." She nodded. "So were they. But not all of them will choose peace." Behind her, the others were now awake, rising to their feet. Some looked confused, some looked angry. One began to scream. Reed shouted, "We can't stay here. This place is going to explode." Lyra turned back to the vault wall, her wrist mark pulsed again. A final log appeared, one Reed hadn't seen before. This time, the voice was different, familiar. It was Reed's father. "If you're seeing this, then Subject 03 survived."
"Lyra, I'm sorry. We didn't mean for it to go this
far. But Earth wouldn't stop. They were afraid of alien life, so they built you to control it, to destroy what they didn't understand." Reed's eyes widened. "My father?" The log continued. You were the only one who ever asked. Why? That's why they locked your mind. You saw too much. You felt too much. You became something we couldn't control. The message ended. Silence filled the chamber again. Reed turned to her slowly. So this was never just about you. Lyra nodded. No, it's about what happens next. Behind them, a tall hybrid boy stepped forward. His eyes weren't full of hate. They were full of fear. They'll come for us, he said. All of us, Lyra looked up at the surface. Then we leave first. Reed ran back toward the stairs, the others following. But as they climbed, one last sound echoed from below, the deep hum of a machine waking up. Not a person. A system buried under the vault. Something worse. Something Earth had tried to bury. Lyra looked back. A new mark had formed on her other wrist. A red one. Reed saw it and whispered, "What does that mean?" Lyra's voice was quiet now. "It means I'm not the only key. Someone else. It's something else. It's just been unlocked." The sky above the vault turned red, not from sunlight. From ships, they didn't roar. They didn't flash. They descended in silence, cutting through the clouds like shadows made of steel. No flags, no symbols, just power. Reed stood at the top of the canyon, eyes locked on the black shapes falling toward them. "They found us," he said. Lyra stood beside him, wind lifting her silver hair. "No," she replied. "They were always coming. We just arrived first." Behind them, the others, the hybrids, were still waking, still learning how to walk, how to speak, how to feel. Some looked at Lyra with trust. Others looked toward the sky with hate. The tall boy, the one who remembered her, spoke first. "We fight," but Lyra raised her hand. "No, not yet." Reed turned to her. "Why not?" "They'll kill us." Lyra stepped forward slowly. Her voice was calm, but heavy. "They don't want to kill us." She looked up again. "They want to take control." Again. The first enemy ship landed in the canyon, its legs digging into the rock. A ramp opened. Out walked soldiers, faceless, silent, wearing black armor that moved like liquid. They carried no weapons. They didn't need any. One stepped forward, a tall figure with silver lines across his chest. His voice echoed, not from his mouth, but through the air itself. "Subject 03. Return to containment. Or we activate protocol burn." Reed stepped in front of Lyra. "What's protocol burn?" The soldier replied coldly. "We destroy everything." No emotion, no delay. The ground shook. Far below, inside the vault, systems began to glow red. The countdown had started. Lyra didn't flinch. She stepped forward alone. Her voice carried across the canyon. "I am not yours." The soldier didn't answer. "Yeah." He raised one hand, signaling the others. But before they could move, something happened. Other hybrids, weak and confused moments ago, now stood tall, side by side. Behind Lyra, no words, no plan, just unity. Lyra looked at the red mark on her wrist. It burned now, but not with pain. With purpose, she turned to Reed. "Get back to the ship. You're not made for this." Reed refused. "Neither were you, but look at you now." Smiled for the first time. Then she turned back to the soldiers and ran faster than Reed had ever seen her move. The others followed. The canyon lit up with power, not weapons, but raw force. Energy poured from their hands, from their skin, from the marks they didn't understand until now. They weren't just made for war. They were meant to choose what to be. Reed ran to the ship. Engines already online. He looked back once more. At Lyra, now standing in a circle of light, surrounded by both enemies and allies. But she wasn't alone, and she wasn't afraid. Later, the vault was gone. Destroyed but not lost. The hybrids had scattered, some with Lyra, some on their own. Reed flew through deep space, alone in the cockpit. A message played softly on the screen. Her voice, "I'm not a weapon. I'm not a project. I'm a choice. And now I choose to live free." Others will find us. And when they do, we will be ready. He smiled. Then hit record. Time to tell the world the truth.